Davidson. Thank you very much for joining us today. This is the first of our genuine conversations for 2019. We were going to have one last week, and my apologies, I'm afraid I had the dreaded lurg and I'm still a bit croaky, so apologies for that. I can't believe that we're halfway through January.
I'm so pleased we're halfway through January.
Interesting, different perspective. At the beginning of any year, it's amazing how many people set out to make New Year's resolutions.
Yeah.
How many people review what's gone before and think, I want things to be different this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I also find it interesting if you talk to people and you say to them, well, what did you want last year?
Yeah.
At the same time, and many of them say the same things, and you ask, well, have you achieved it? Well, presumably no, because you still are yearning for that change, whether it's love or a better job or more financial success or a greater joy in your life. And then my next question is, so what action did you take during the previous year to make things different?
And it's a good time of year to ask it, isn't it? Because pretty much you can always remember what last Christmas felt like in the period after Christmas. So it's quite good to be able to place yourself accurately back in time and remember, what was I feeling? What was I hoping for?
Absolutely.
What was I thinking I would get done?
My challenge to people who are with us today is to ask, how many years have you had of the same dream, the same wish? And are things fundamentally any different now? And the pattern is there is a very common pattern that people spend their life yearning for things to be different. If only, this is what I want. And they keep putting it in the future, and they make it something like a quest, really, but one that they don't ever start the journey on because they feel that they don't deserve it, or it feels too difficult, or things get in the way, or a combination of all three.
I had a friend who used to make lots of intentions, and her aunt used to say to her, it's good to make intentions, but it's better to leave your dreams where they are just in case you fail at them.
Oh, isn't that sad?
Yes, because she felt it was better to just live in this fantasy land of dreaming and the possibility of being a success than actually to try and potentially find out that you were rubbish at it. And that is a very sad...
But it's a very common
But it's descriptive,
thing.
Isn't it, of the fear that, and the analysis paralysis that people can have.
Because so many people, I would like that, but deep down, I don't deserve it.
Yeah.
And I think one of the big questions for me, and one of the questions that I would ask you today, if you're watching this, and you may be watching this, and it could be July or August.
Yeah.
The fact that we're talking about this in January, the principles are the same whenever we're talking.
Yes.
Is, are you self-limiting because you believe you don't deserve better?
Yes, or you think that stuff has to be perfect. If only this were, then I could.
And I think there are a number of different scenarios. One is I don't deserve it, therefore it's out of my reach. Another is, as you say, it's got to be perfect before I start. And I think that leads, as you say, to paralysis, where if you make a start and it's good enough, you've made the start, and then you work on changing it. I think back to the first time I sat in front of this camera. My knees were knocking, my voice was querulous, the technology didn't work, it took about 5 attempts before I could get it to work. And now it's still not perfect by any means, but I feel much more confident about sitting here with you today.
Yes.
In front of the camera.
Yes.
If I had waited till it was perfect, I'd never have got the practice, therefore it would never have improved. And as I say, it's not perfect now, but it is hugely better.
Well, I feel the same when I sit down in front of a blank piece of paper in order to write a story, If you're not careful, you can let that blank staring screen intimidate you. And and then you start all those messages around, you know, will this be good enough, and what will people like, and you start to make it all so much more complicated than it actually.
And whether
really
we're talking about writing or losing weight or
yes.
stopping smoking or going for a new job,
yes.
or learning a new skill, or being a better version of you.
Yes.
The same principles are true. You have to start somewhere. And you know, the old saying, every journey starts with the first step.
Mm.
It's easier to gain momentum from momentum.
Mm.
It's that moving from a standing start that is so difficult. You imagine pushing a car. My first car, Ermintrude, nightmare. Always went wrong. Got there. We usually got there, but usually had to come back by bus or taxi or catch a lift. Because
it was a one-way car.
Oh, it was a one-way car. I had her for 8 months. She was working for 8 weeks. Nightmare. Now, got very used to having to give her a push to get her going. And it was so difficult to get the momentum to actually make her move.
Yes.
Once she was moving, it got much easier.
Yes.
And I think that's a really good analogy for life, that once you're moving, you can start to adjust and to build in new things.
And I think, you know, that is such a truism, that the, you know, physically, the energetic, the momentum. I mean, you know, you can see it in Goethe's boldness has genius, and all that sort of. And lots of people use the phrase, you know, momentum solves fear.
Yes.
Because, and even in a very base, like biological, animalistic kind of way, when you are feeling fearful of something, then just the act of moving,
you change the state,
yourself. Yes, it does. It changes the energy. So there are people who say, if in doubt, do not.
Yes.
And of course, there is an argument and specific circumstances where that might be the thing to do, is to do nothing.
I think the thing is, that may be the case to do nothing for the moment.
Yeah.
But nobody, I think, when they made that intention, said, well, then do nothing for the next 5 weeks or 5 months
years.
or 10 years. I think what I would suggest people take out of that is think.
Yes.
Get yourself out of your habitual stuff.
Yes.
And think mindfully, think actively.
Yes.
What's going on here? And if this is fear, and the fear is stopping me doing something that I believe is the right thing to do, then fear doesn't last long.
No.
Was it Churchill who said, you know, if you can overcome the 30 seconds of fear, then you can do anything?
Yes.
I have really savaged that quote.
Well, Caitlin Moran, for somebody who's still alive, says to anxious teenage girls, you only have to get through the next 60 seconds. That's all you ever have to get through.
Yeah, and that's all we've got, isn't it, in this moment?
Yes.
But I wonder how many people constantly visit the dream that life could be different.
Yeah.
But in that moment of thinking about the dream, say that's not for me, that's for other people, or that's just too hard. And I think one of the things that makes people feel it's too hard is they get overwhelmed by the enormity of what they're trying to do. Now, those of you that have listened to us before know that I've set a mission to positively impact on 1 million people in the next 5 years. And that, at one level, is incredibly overwhelming.
Yeah.
But when you break it down into bite-sized chunks, 1 million people is simply one person at a time.
One person at a time.
And then that person has an impact on the people that they know.
Yeah.
So the 1 million becomes far less than 1 million people one-to-one.
Yes.
And you can only make a difference in that moment to whoever you're interacting with. So whether we're interacting with people through the media of Facebook, or through a video, or through our books, or through a physical one-to-one, we can only impact on those people that we have actual contact with. One of the reasons being really grateful if you could share this, because then that contact gets spread.
Exactly. But if you were going to wait for a situation where there was 1 million people gathered and you could talk to them in one moment of time, then you would never achieve your goal.
I'd never achieve it in the sense of getting 1 million people together, but also talking to 1 million people at once would be completely overwhelming, wouldn't it?
Yes.
I mean, the technology you would need to actually be able to reach 1 million people sitting there,
yes,
would be difficult.
Yes.
So I think there's a really strong message for people here, is think about your goals, and it's great to have goals and aspirations. For me, the why is it important to you? Because if your why is strong enough, that will help overcome fear.
I think it's also useful actually to look back on sort of autobiographies of people you admire and find out how they got started. And there's a documentary on BBC at the moment about Billy Connolly, the famous comedian and actor, and the Big Yin, as he's known in Scotland. And he attributes his actually getting into showbiz, comedy, the life he now lives, to one particular person. And actually they had footage of this person in the dockyards where he was a welder. And obviously the economy and welding and Glasgow's shipbuilding industry was on the decline. And this one seasoned old man said to him one day, if this is your dream, to be a folk singer, to be on stage, so on and so forth, then you should do it now. Because there are many blokes, look around here, there are many blokes who come in and they talk about the regret of what their life could have been, and then it kills you. It'll kill you before it kills you, type of thing.
Yes.
You should do it. And he attributes, he says literally the next day, he got on his bike and cycled around Scotland playing folk. And he really attributes it to that one conversation.
That man who gave him that piece of advice, what a brilliant piece of advice.
But how simple, but also a very human, but possibly even a very throwaway comment from this chap. He probably didn't think, I'm going to change this Billy Connolly's life.
No.
He probably just simply spoke from the heart and told the truth of it, which is, you don't really regret what you do in life. What you end up at the end of your life regretting is the stuff that you didn't do, the stuff that you were too scared to, or can talk yourself out of, or for whatever reason.
I think that's really, really true. And I think when you talked about it killing you before it kills you, it kills your spirit. And there are so many people who I think feel that they have not fulfilled the best of who they are. And in doing so, that makes them feel less than enough. And I believe that if you are true to yourself, if you are genuine about being who you are meant to be, that gives you joy, that gives you energy to be able to maintain the momentum.
There's another aspect of Billy's story that's quite interesting, I think, which is he set off to be a folk singer, and he was relatively successful with that, in that he teamed up with Gerry Rafferty, who is a well-known 70s music star. And for a while they were a duo, but always he had the dynamic that it was Gerry writing songs, Billy playing the banjo and singing too, but Billy would do like the interludes in between the songs with his chat and his banter and stuff like this. And anyway, the friendship got tense, as artistic friendships do, and they decided to go their separate ways. And it was only at sort of that point, a supposed failure, he thought he was on it. He thought, I've achieved, I'm a folk singer, getting some success, and then it fails. In the moment, it's a sort of failure. What am I going to do next? But of course, it's from there that he then decided to step into what we now know him as, which is a stand-up comedian of epic proportions, and transform a lot of what comedy was. So, revolutionary.
But isn't it interesting that when people have tried something or worked on something, and then there's a shift in direction, that's seen as a failure rather than as part of the development. He had learned stagecraft. He had learned how to interact with an audience. In many ways, one could argue that comedy is a form of music, in that there's rhythm and there's timing, and there's a cadence to comedy.
Yes.
And so for me, that would not have been failure, but simply building. And you get to my stage in life and you think, all of these things that I've done, my belief is that they are preparation for the now, what I am working on now. And each of them, even if they didn't equate to what I thought they were going to do, have been part of my development and part of my growth.
Yes.
And I'm a stronger, better person for having experienced not only the successes, but the so-called failures, the times when things haven't worked out as I thought they might. That there's strength and resilience and a whole range of skills which have come from those too. And I think that whilst one doesn't choose to put yourself into a place where things don't work out on purpose, there is a purpose to it. And I think we need to acknowledge that and embrace it because it's part of who we are.
And of course, in sort of looking back on other people's stories like Billy's, you see that actually it is in that process of looking back to compare where he was versus where he is now, that we all get the understanding that so it was intended to be this way, or that made sense now. Oh yes, I can see how.
Hindsight's the only exact science, isn't it?
Which is why it's useful at these times of years to actually just take a moment and say, gosh, where was I at this time last year? Because in the moment you can often be quite hung up on the fact that, oh, it's not working out the way I want, and oh, this didn't quite go right, whatever. But when you look back to where you were last year, you can see, okay, but I've made massive strides, and I'm definitely much further from where I was.
Yes. And I think sometimes people have a very set idea of this has to be the destination.
Yes.
And sometimes we end up at a different destination which turns out to be better.
Yes, just like Billy, he wanted to be a folk singer. He ended up not being a folk singer.
No.
But it's not a failure in his life, is it, by any stretch?
I think, as we draw our conversation round to a close, one of the things that I think is really important is if you are listening to this, watching this, and last year you set yourself a wish that life could be different, and you look back to the year before and you had a wish that life could be different, and you look at the year before and this life could be different, I would really say to you, it's time to take some action. It's not the grand gesture that works. Those of you that listen to us know that this is one of my mantras. It's not the grand gesture that works, but the small steps taken consistently, which make the real difference. But if you're still hankering after something different, then, and you haven't done it, then it's time to get some help.
Yes.
I find it interesting that, if our car goes wrong, most of us wouldn't lift the bonnet and try to see what's going on. Or if the boiler goes wrong in the house, or the electrics go wrong, we will get somebody in who has the expertise to help us. Yes. And yet, when it's our emotional self, when it's our personal or our professional self, many people feel that it would be wrong to ask for some expert help. And I think that's such a shame, because with a little bit of help, you can make huge changes quite quickly.
Yeah, because often it does take a third party, an external person, just to say something that makes you go, oh, or, I've got permission now. I hadn't thought of it that way.
Giving yourself permission, that's the first line of action, taking some action by saying to somebody, I haven't managed this on my own yet. Would you help me? Sometimes it takes someone else to see the pattern and say, do you recognise that this is what you're doing? Sometimes it's just, have you thought about this strategy? Or, come on, it's time to do things. Let's hold you accountable, and let's find a way forward. And just to believe in you when you don't believe in yourself. And so I would say to, if you need some help, reach out. You can reach out to us at genuinely-you.com, But whatever you do, make sure you reach out. So I'd like to thank you for joining us. We meet live on a Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock. Please come and join us. Please, if you're listening to this live, please put some comments. If you're listening to this as a recording, please also let us know that you have visited. You'll find lots of resources on genuinely-you.com, the website. There's the app, Genuinely You. And you'll find all of our books on the website or on Amazon. Rachel Davidson, The Point of Me, my latest book, Driving Not Surviving, The 5 Secret Pathways to Happiness, Success and Fulfillment. Both international bestsellers. Thank you very much for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Take care now. Bye-bye.